Are you a leapling? A leap year baby, that is to say? If you are, then you only get to celebrate your true birthday once every 4 years. Maybe you feel cheated at not having your birthday on February 29th every year, or maybe you don't care since you just celebrated the day before, February 28th, or after, March 1st, in a non-leap year, a year where February only has 28 days. You can thank events that happened thousands of years ago for cheating you out of a birthday on non-leap years. Or perhaps you can thank them for letting you have an ultra special birthday once every 4 years. Maybe you even feel younger because you have fewer birthdays, whatever tickles your fancy most. Anyways, this lesson will tell you how the concept of a leap year arose and why. A leap year, by the way, is a year that has 366 days as opposed to the usual 365. To understand why leap years exist, we first need to define a tropical year. The tropical year, aka the solar year, is the length of time it takes the sun to travel from and return to the vernal equinox. The tropical year is the same time it takes for the cycle of the seasons to repeat, and that length of time is about 365.242199 days long. That's 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds. See the lesson on the cycle of the seasons for more on what the vernal equinox is with respect to the seasons and the position of the sun. The length of the tropical year was estimated by the ancient Egyptians to be 365 days. That's pretty close to the actual tropical year, isn't it? These ancient whiz kids knew that the true length of the year was a bit longer than 365 days, however. That's because ancient Egyptians were excellent observers and figured out that over many hundreds of years, the Nile flood occurred later every year in a cycle lasting 1,500 years. Since the ancient calendars, including the ancient Egyptian one, fell behind the true solar year, adjustments were made over the centuries by more than one calendar in society in order to try and weed out the inconsistencies between the actual length of the year and their calendars. However, it wasn't really until Julius Caesar's and Pope Gregory XIII's powerful ruling hands made a couple of decrees that the concept of a leap year in its modern form was born. Their actions led to the addition of an extra day every 4 years and the omission of 3 days every 400 years to match our calendars to the true solar year as best as possible. Why bother doing this? The lesson on the Julian and Gregorian calendars explains a bit more as to why this change occurred. But let's think of the alternative in this lesson. The alternative would be to use a calendar that has exactly the same number of days, hours, minutes, and seconds as the true solar year. In that case, let's say we start the next year at midnight. This year would end, by definition, 365.242199 days later, which would be just before 6 in the morning. This means that next year, each date would change not at midnight, but just before 6 in the morning. The year after that, each day would begin a little bit before noon, and so forth. If you're still confused as to why, good. That's exactly why we don't use such a crazy calendar and instead use the much simpler concept of leap years. Using the concept of a leap year, we give up the accuracy of any given calendar year compared to the solar year by a tiny bit for simplicity's sake. Nevertheless, even with such a system, the average length of each year when leap years are taken into account is basically the same as that of the solar year over a long period of time. Some years will be a bit too long, some a bit too short, but the average will be just right. A leap year is a year that has 366 days as opposed to the usual 365. We add an extra day to the end of February in order to achieve this. A leap year is added to try and match the average length of our years over a long period of time to the tropical year, also known as the solar year, which is the length of time it takes the sun to travel from and return to the vernal equinox. The length of the tropical year is 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds.